Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And today we are going to be talking about a really great musical album that is a one of one and time has forgotten it.
Yeah.
And
Definitely a hidden gem.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I would say of metal, it is probably, I'd probably say it's in the top 10 of hidden gems for like metal in general.
Yeah.
Just this thing that's a super group by any other name.
It's like a super duper group though, because of how many people are in it.
Yeah,
on the album.
And it came from the minds of some dude who was known for his grunge stuff, but he's beloved by all. We're talking about Probot by Dave Grohl and a host of others.
Yes.
It could also be called Dave Grohl and the Other Legends.
Yeah.
Because this thing is just such an extensive and interesting album, and it came about in like the most old school way that it could. That this album it's the most pure metal album of modern times.
Yeah.
I guess would be the
I guess it came out early 2000s, so yeah.
Yeah, recorded between 2000 and 2003. It released February 10th, 2004. But just in case, let's run through our quick spiel. Just in case you don't know what we are, we'll try to be quick. We are Why Does This Exist? We are a podcast that talks about the very weirdest in pop culture, whether that be a musical project like we're about to do, a movie like we just did in our episode on The Big Lebowski, or a musical genre like we did for our 100th episode on thrash metal. Shout out to Holtzboyer, who gave us the nice shout out and lovely introduction. You can support the show in a number of ways. You can do it on social media, predominantly Facebook. You'll find us there. Send us some weird pictures of things and whatever other odd videos and oddities that you happen to find. Send it to us and we will thank you for this strange gift. Use the term loosely. You can also go on to, but the best way to give us anything, really, you can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. So you can send them to your friends and family and enemies and frenemies and all that, Jonathan. I don't know. Maybe you play it in the delivery room while your wife's in labor with your first child. I don't know. Give them something to listen to so that baby runs out of that room. But the best way that you could give us money, and the only way that you could really give us money, to be honest, just go on over to patreon.com/whydoesthisexist. You could give us as much as you want, or as little as $1, and we will let you into the Discord. That's the best way. You'll fund the program, and if you don't want to give the money to us, our man Tony is always writing great content for us. He just wrote an article for us this past week on the Exorcist director Friedkin, Mr. Friedkin, William Friedkin. He directed a lot of great movies. He passed away. These are all about just underrated movies like Killer Joe, Cruising, Bug, Sorcerer, and just a bunch of other great things. So if you don't want to give us money, then donate to the Patreon so that way we can give Tony the money and we can support all of Tony's addictions. Whatever they are. I'm not Tony's therapist, and I'm also not his shoulder angel or shoulder devil. But whatever it is that gets Tony's rocks off, you can help fund that. And wouldn't that be great? Also, Tony has 487 children and counting. He really needs the support.
Yeah.
Tony has been a very busy man with all of his vices, having a grand old time out in the wilds of wherever it is that he lives.
He'll be
The
the next
undis
Genghis Khan.
Yes, the undisclosed location. Tony writing his articles and putting his parts in parts unknown. That's what he's doing. So fund his lifestyle. If you don't like us, fund Tony's lifestyle. Patreon.com/why does this exist? That's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. Rob, explain to the good people what Probot is.
All right, so Probot is the heavy metal side project of Dave Grohl, as we stated before. For those who don't know, although if you don't know who Dave Grohl is, you're probably living under a rock. Dave Grohl is the former drummer of Nirvana and the frontman of the Foo Fighters, which were probably two of the biggest rock bands of the last 30 years. So in the late 90s, Grohl was, plugging away with the Foo Fighters, and he had just released the album.
There is nothing left to lose.
Yeah, there's nothing left to lose.
Which I believe is the album that really solidified the Foo Fighters as that big rock band, the big arena band that they are so known for now.
Yeah.
They had just won a Grammy for it.
Yeah.
And he kind of just wanted to kind of do something else for a little bit, or he was just kind of like, I wouldn't say burnt out, but he was kind of like, all right.
He wanted to do something different.
He wanted to decompress.
Yeah, he was, like, that was like, he was he was in the alternative rock scene. It was a slower album, and he kind of was like, okay, I need to do something different now because, I got these like there's a lot of mellower songs on there. It was a big, it was very mainstream, and he was like kind of like wanted to do something different. So, he went back to his house in Virginia and like just kind of started like recording some songs at his home studio. And they were like heavier songs. And he started writing all these riffs and doing these things, and they were like very simple, like bare bones kind of like recordings. Like he was just doing like basic drums and riffs and kind of like just writing out almost like a demo, basically.
Yeah, it was him, his buddy Adam Casper, and Matt Sweeney, and they were just kind of getting together, doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
just really mostly just kind of like just jamming on some tracks and just hanging out. Really.
Yeah, it was really just kind of like fleshing out the sound. And then he started doing that. He also like was kind of inspired by Santana's 1999 album Supernatural, because on that Santana did a similar thing where he just got a bunch of rock musicians to play with him, rock and pop musicians to play on the album with him and do all these different songs, and stuff.
Well, that seems to be an MTV rumor, which it may or may not be true, because there's an interview with Louder Sound where Matt Sweeney is discussing it. It's like Dave Grohl and Matt Sweeney are talking about it, and Matt Sweeney's like MTV really said that. Like he's
really?
I don't. Yeah, he's like I'm looking at it now. He's like I don't. The exact quote is, MTV really said Probot was influenced by Santana. Ha ha ha! I don't remember ever talking about Santana, but I like that. Let's leave that in. We were hanging out a lot, and Dave said, I have this idea about doing a record with all these amazing metal singers that were overlooked, particularly the 80s underground metal dudes, and I said that's a great idea.
And so this was the cool thing, is that the idea to use all these guys that inspired him, which, like, for those who don't know, Dave Grohl is actually like a very big metalhead, and not just like mainstream metal. He listens to like a lot of underground metal.
Oh
And so
yeah.
like
Well,
he was
he helps like up and coming like bands out. Like he'll
yeah.
produce their stuff if he likes them.
I mean, Dave Grohl is pretty much like the most loved person in the rock, I would say, in like the rock scene. Like there's like literally nobody that plays rock or metal or anything that has a bad word to say about Dave Grohl. Like everyone
No,
pretty much loves Dave Grohl. Like
I don't think it's possible.
no, he's just a cool guy.
He's like the Keanu Reeves of rock music,
Yeah, pretty
basically.
much.
And
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves plays in a rock band too,
Yeah.
but like he's not
I,
known for that.
well, Dave Grohl kind of does look a little bit like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I kind of. I never really
I
like
guess.
put that together. I guess in a way they're brothers with different mothers.
Yeah.
Or the
So
same mother. I don't know. It's plausible.
it could be too.
Anything can happen in this universe.
So, quick aside, did you hear now that apparently has nothing to do with Dave Grohl, that Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey might be brothers?
Oh, that's funny. No, I
They
did not know that at all. That's
Yeah, so
hilarious.
Woody Harrelson's father was like a career criminal and
Oh.
had like many affairs with different women. And Matthew McConaughey's mother happened to have she happened to be living in the same town around 9 months before he was born as Woody Harrelson's father, and they did end up they had an affair. Like I guess like Matthew McConaughey's mother and father like had split up temporarily or something. And so there's a good chance that they are literally brothers, but from the same mother. Different father. Brothers from a different father.
Oh boy.
Or the same father. No, they would be brothers from a different mother.
No, they would be brothers from a different mother. Yeah.
Literally.
That's how that works. Wow. All right. Small world.
Yeah.
Well,
they apparently they just recently found this out. And
would be really interesting if they hated each other.
Well, no, it's
life.
funny because they are like good friends in real life, and like but they're like I forget. I was reading an interview. I don't know if it was with I think it was with Matthew McConaughey, and he said he was like afraid to get a DNA test because he grew up thinking his like father, that his mother's husband was his father, and like had like a good relationship with him, and doesn't want to kind of like know the truth. So like he's like hesitant about getting a DNA test.
Yeah, I could understand that. I'd be a little especially if the mother's no longer with us. There's questions that you're gonna have that she can't answer.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be pretty obvious what the answers would be, but if neither parent is there, well, I mean, also like, well, I don't even know if the dad is even still with us anymore.
I think Woody Harrelson's father has passed away, I think.
Well, no, not that dad, but I mean like the like Matthew McConaughey's believed father.
Yeah.
Because then that opens up. It's really messy. So I would honestly, I can't blame him for not wanting to do that.
Yeah.
But whatever they choose to do, it's a small world after all, I guess.
Yep. Anyway, yeah. So that was just a quick little aside about brothers from another mother, literally. So Dave Grohl decided to, do this project, and he really did get like the best of like 80s underground metal. So I'll just go through the list real quick because it's gonna like actually like it surprised me when I saw this. Like I kind of had heard of Probot before, but I never really listened to them. And then recently I saw this guy that I follow on Facebook. He does reels on Facebook, Hawk and Load, and he just kind of like does like the history of like heavy metal like videos basically, and was talking about like Jack Black and his like guest appearances, and of course Jack Black is on this album, and like had said like, oh, Probot might be Jack Black's best like side project basically, his one-off song that he did with Probot, and so I looked up Probot and I was like, holy crap, this is like heavy metal royalty on this album. So you have Kronos of Venom, Max Cavalera of Sepultura and Soulfly, Lemmy, Mike Dean of Corrosion of Conformity, Kurt Brecht of DRI, Lee Dorian of Cathedral and Napalm Death, Wino of St. Vitus, Tom G. Warrior of Celtic Frost,
And Kim Thale of Soundgarden.
Kim Thale of Soundgarden, Snake of Voivod, Eric Wagner of Trouble, and King Diamond.
And also
Jack Black.
And on top of that, there is also like the artwork is done by Michael Away Levanian, or I can't pronounce his name. He's French Canadian. Langevin,
also of Voivod.
Langevin, yes, of Voivod, who, you see that cover, you see that art style, and you automatically know who it is.
Well, yeah. The only way they could have gotten like a more iconic artist is if they got friggin'
Ed Repka
to do their cover art, and it would have been like really like the underground metal album.
Oh yeah, but Dave Grohl like specifically wanted a way to do the cover because Voivod is one of his favorite bands, and he's like their album art defined underground metal for me, so like it had to be him.
Yeah,
and it's one of the coolest covers too.
It is a cool cover.
I'm surprised I've never run into somebody with like a tattoo of this.
Yeah, well, again, Probot is kind of like.
I've met some people with Voivod tattoos, and they're like really cool if you run into somebody who has it.
I really feel like Probot is like, because I did not like really listen to him until like recently, within the last like month or so.
Even the label, it was even on the doom metal label Southern Lord, which has Sleep and Goat Snake and Pentagram, and pretty much every doom metal band going now is on Southern Lord.
Yeah, and if I had heard listened to this album when I was coming up, when I was in college and stuff, and I was really getting into more and more metal and all that, this would have been an awesome album. I don't understand why I never listened to it, because it's good. And so the thing that I really like about it
kind of got buried in between everything else, but continue.
Yeah. The thing that I really like about it is that every song is tailored to the guest. So Centuries of Sin, which features Kronos, sounds almost like a Venom song. Yeah. And
Shake Your Blood could definitely be a Lost Motorhead song.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Red War and a lot of them.
Literally all of them sound like they could be a song by the artist. They don't all go that way. Some of the I believe the last 5, not in any particular order, but the last 5 that he did, once he knew what he wanted to do with this, the last 5 were tailored to the artist, but all of the other the first 7 were just what Dave was working on and what he had been riffing on. Well, that I guess is just a happy coincidence, because they worked so good for the artists.
Well, his process is probably when he knew what he wanted to do, he probably was okay, well, the people who agreed to do this, then I'm gonna just write something that is the easiest thing for them to pull off.
I wonder if part of his
and then the other 7 that he had already done, he probably was all right, well, let me think about who would be good for this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I wonder if part of his writing process is when he was doing just the riffs and stuff, is I'm gonna make basically a riff from all these different genres of underground metal. I'll make a doom metal song, I'll make a thrashier song, I'll make a death metal song, I'll make a hardcore crossover song, and then afterwards, when he was building up his guest list, he's okay, what artist would be good for these songs that I have left, or something, kind of like
Probably.
that.
It's almost like he was a casting director.
Yes. Yeah. And he was casting them in their roles perfectly.
Yeah. Which how he got them to do this was just, he pretty much just started we were in the early 2000s, so it was the start of the whole big internet as we know it boom.
Yeah.
So he was kind of doing like just like early snail mail and just like mailing people requests and stuff like, hi, it's me, Dave Grohl. I did Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and stuff, and I have this thing. Do you want to be on it? And like he would send them like tapes back
Yeah.
and forth, and they would just send it to each other. And he like didn't know he was because like a lot of it was like left field stuff. Like this was like a basement project. Like here's from
Yeah.
like another Louder Sound article. They did a retrospective article a few like years later, but like the first article is probably the better one, which it's in well actually no, it's I'm sorry. The story of Probot interview is there. Oh yeah, 13 days ago they just did this. Wow. So okay, it's a Metal Hammer thing, but it's on Louder Sound, so I guess Louder Sounds owns them or something like that. I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess it's the and it yeah. So Metal Hammer just like revisited this because the album is going to be 20 next year, which is crazy. Um, and the one from 2022 or last updated 2022, so maybe like I don't know when they originally did this, but anyway, the article is loudersound.com, how Dave Grohl's metal project evolved into Probot, the heaviest album of 2004, by a guy named Martin Popoff. So that's like where this is. But let me see where the quote is. Okay. It started out as a project in my basement, says Dave. At first, I was recording a bunch of instrumentals for fun and had no intention of having anyone else sing on it. But then, after recording the first 7 songs, I thought it would be kind of funny to almost make fun of that Santana record, Supernatural, that had come out,
Mhm.
with a different vocalist on every song. And then I played on the Tony Iommi record, which had the same concept, and I thought, wow, maybe this will work. But instead of having the mainstream or more popular singers, I decided to restrict it to the genre of underground metal from 1982 to 1989. So we started calling people. I wasn't sure everyone would be cooperative just because it was kind of out of left field that a guy from Nirvana would be calling people like Kronos from Venom or Tom G. Warrior or Lee Dorian, he adds. But everybody was really, really excited to do it. And from there, it was really a simple process of calling up and saying, would you like to be a part of it? And if they agreed, I would send them a copy of the song I thought they should sing on, and they'd say yes or no. Everybody said yes. We'd send them the master tape, give them money for the studio, then they'd sing on them and send it back. And one by one, they started coming back, and they were just fucking awesome. Okay, I'm gonna stop reading, but yeah, like oh, and then there's like did he tailor the songs to each specific metal style? I tried not to. The first 7 songs were definitely blind. Sorry, I lied. Blind instrumentals, but the next
Oh.
5 songs were a little more matched to the people I thought should sing on them. And I had a list of my dream team singers, so somewhat. The Lemmy track was written for Lemmy. I didn't want to give him something a little too off the wall or
Oh
too
yeah.
artsy or weird. The song I gave to Max Cavalera was pretty close to what he was used to doing. But for the
Yeah.
most part, they are really just kind of song based. I mean, even the instrumental songs before the vocals were added had sort of linear arrangements. That's it. I'm done reading it. But yeah, that's really what it was. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
he had known like Kurt from DRI from like '83 because they did a show in Washington D.C.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, so like he just like hung out with them, and then like years from and then he knew the guy Wino or like Mike Dean. He like knew them from like his hardcore band opening up for them in 1984.
Yeah.
And like he just he bumped into Voivod a couple of times, and he was like, "Yes, awesome." And then like at that point in time, he hadn't met a bunch of the other people, so he was just like, this was just out on a whim, and they were like, "Yeah, this is cool." I think it's really neat that like they paid for the studio.
Yeah.
Like they just basically were like, "Thank you for doing this favor for us." I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Yeah. Um.
I mean, also it's the right thing to do because like like, hi, I need you to do me a favor. Okay, it's going to cost a couple of $100, maybe even 1,000. I don't know how long you're going to take on it because I need you to go into a recording studio. Okay, you're paying for this, right? Well, actually, I was kind of hoping that you would. Yeah, that's like a deal breaker right there. So, like, the fact
Yeah.
that he was like ready to put the money up, like,
Yeah.
that's like shows the level of commitment of just like, listen, I don't care how long it takes. I just want it to be done. So that would be cool if you could do that.
Yeah. Well, and he had the money too, because Foo Fighters was like doing so well.
Well, and also he probably was smart with his Nirvana money.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
So
Um,
like he seems like he seems like a guy who like does all the right things financially, or at least
yeah,
does most of them, and like made all of the mistakes early on enough to learn, okay, this is how you can actually manage your money and live comfortably doing what you love.
yeah. And it's funny too because like Dave Grohl is like he kind of like really crosses over like many genres, being like in a grunge band and an alternative rock band, and then he like is like friends with a bunch of metalheads and plays like in like has he's done guest appearances on other metal albums too. Like he played a couple tracks on like one of Ghost's albums.
Oh yeah,
Um,
well, like to the point where people thought that he was like one of the Ghost members.
Yes, yeah, there was a big rumor going around that he was actually the drummer of Ghost, that Ghost was like a super group and they were all hidden, which it turns out that wasn't true. Um,
It's too bad that
well, it
like
is too bad because that would have been a cool thing if it was like a super group, but they all hid their identities to like to not take away from the music, because a lot of times people listen to a super group just because it's like musicians they like, and they'll like they wanted to, if they just wanted to let the like music speak for itself kind of thing. Uh, so I mean, really, the only like big, like besides Dave Grohl, the only other big guy was Papa Emeritus, who's uh what's his name?
the guy from Repugnant, I forgot
Yeah.
his name.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Tobias
But
Forge. Tobias Forge,
there we go.
who was
But
in Repugnant, and he was in also Crash Diet. So he was a pretty like well known musician before
yeah,
Ghost.
also in the like underground metal scenes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been great if like it would have been great if they could just at least keep that gimmick because they didn't because like people believed that it was a super group and they wanted to believe that it was a super group
Yeah.
and they didn't do anything. They never refuted the rumors or anything,
No,
and people didn't want them to unmask, so they were like okay, like
their
not
gimmick.
they were okay with not knowing with that gimmick
Yeah,
because it like
that was
because like
a
the
pretty
mystery was like a
brilliant.
big because the mystery was a big thing about Ghost. I
Yes.
mean, we'll do a whole episode on Ghost at another point in time,
Yeah.
but it's it's kind of too bad that like things went sour and the people who were like the actual nameless ghouls were like they like
They kind of got screwed.
yeah they got screwed and they
Well,
like
we could
revealed
talk
them.
about that when we actually do Ghosts. Well, we'll eventually do an episode on Ghosts, probably.
Yeah, but long story short, they got screwed. They revealed their identities, and they like exposed that it was not a super group.
Yes.
Which like was kind of a downer. It kind of like hurt the mystique a little bit, but like
Yeah.
the band was still good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's about all that I have to say about that. We'll talk more about it during a Ghost episode at some point in time.
Yeah. I was gonna say, but so he does that, and then also apparently like Dave Grohl was also like you know like very much into like old like disco records and stuff back in like the 70s, and like apparently like a lot of like the drums on I was watching an interview with Dave Grohl. He was I think he was talking to Pharrell actually, and they were in the studio talking, and he's like, most of the drum tracks on Nevermind, he just stole it from like old like disco, like the Gap Band and stuff like that. Like he
Oh,
literally just like copied the drums from them, like note for note. And he actually like once like ran into like the drummer from the Gap Band and said that he's like, "Look, I owe you so much because I literally ripped off all of your stuff for Nirvana." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." Which is just like, and it gets to show like Dave Grohl is like one of those guys. It's like he literally will tell you to your face that he stole your stuff, and it's like everyone's still cool with him. Like he's just like a cool guy. Like everyone loves Dave Grohl.
I wonder if he gave him money after that.
I don't know.
I mean, that would
I mean,
make
it's
me
so
feel
hard
better.
to like. It's so hard to say. Oh, I ripped off a drum track. Like it's not like he sampled it. Like it's not like the Funky Drummer, which of course, like if people who don't know, the Funky Drummer is a drum track that's been used in pretty much every classic hip hop album at some point.
Oh yeah.
It was originally a James Brown track. But like if you want to know what the Funky Drummer is, just listen to
Public Enemy.
Bring the Noise.
Yeah.
It's very prominent in Bring the Noise by Public Enemy.
It's funny, we didn't rehearse that. We both just said Public Enemy stuff. You said the song. Yeah, I just said Public Enemy because they use that on all of their songs.
Yes.
The Funky Drummer is intentionally on like pretty much every Public Enemy song.
Yeah, and it's been on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like there's a couple NWA tracks that use the Funky Drummer. Like it was a very popular drum. It was a very popular beat that was used a lot.
Yeah, listen to any like rapper hip hop album from like ever. Well, yes, from like the 80s and 90s. Just use that.
Yeah, because the 90s is when it kind of started to get wishy-washy, where like these old like R&B bands started suing the rappers for like using their samples and stuff like that. And then like,
well, it was because of the Two Live Crew.
Yeah,
because Two Live Crew like used it. It was because they blew up so fast that it got mainstream, and they used so many samples on that album that were like, people were like not trying to listen to this, but it just happened to go on their radio because were so big. Yeah. And it just happened to be on said musician's radio that they sampled, just saying, "Hey, I didn't get a check for this."
Yeah.
Or like, and the first thing that you hear before they play the song is the radio DJ going, "And now the number one song in America. We've played this 10 million times in the last 20 minutes. It's number one on every chart across the globe. Here it is." And then the first thing you hear is your sample. Yeah. It's like, and you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
my
what the fuck, man?"
Yeah, you're just like, where's my cut?
Yeah.
So they got their cut.
Well, and it kind of sucks too, because like that was like a classic like trope in like hip hop, was to use like samples of all these old R&B bands, because a lot of like hip hop DJs started out like Dr. Dre is a perfect example. He started out like as an actual DJ, just like playing this kind of stuff in like discos and bars and stuff like that. You know, when he was part of the what was it, the Worldwide Wrecking Crew or whatever. Like it was like a DJ group, and that's like literally what they did, is they played. So like he got influenced by that and then put those into his own songs when he was doing the NWA songs and Eazy-E and all that stuff. Yep. So it's like, it was like a part of hip hop culture to use those samples. And it kind of was like, it wasn't really like they were stealing the music. They were like literally like, this is what influenced us and we like it. That's why we're using it in our music, which I don't care what anybody says. There's only 12 notes. In Western music, there's literally only 12 notes in the scale. So pretty much every like piece of music of the last 80 years is derivative of something else. There's just like it's not possible, to have, you're gonna copy somebody else eventually, even just accidentally. So, like you could say, oh, they stole it or whatever, but it's not really like, there's a difference between like outright like ripping it off and like just like I would say like Ice Baby, because Vanilla Ice of course got sued by Queen for that, for using and David Bowie for using the riff from Under Pressure. That's pretty like blatantly obvious. Yeah,
and I mean he cut one note off of it to say, "Oh no, it's totally different." Where like that's like the cheapest way to go about it, but like that's a technicality for you. But yeah, like you said, there's only 12. There's only 12 notes on the scale, so there's only 144 theoretical combinations and I'm sure that they have all been reached many
Well, they have
times
to make
over.
some, and really, like all rock music, or pretty much, really all rock and popular music of the last like 60 years is all based in like blues. So
Yeah.
like, it's just like by default has to be like, blues is a very like specific, type of thing. Riff. There's a band called Axis of Awesome. They're like a comedy music band, and they do a song called oh shit, what's it called?
Good
Uh
job.
let's all right. Now I got to look up friggin'. Here we go. I'm on Spotify. Let's see.
All right, well, anyway, but like I said, you can only find the combinations. So you can only find
Four
the
chords. It's called the Four Chords song,
okay.
and it's literally like they basically put all these like um it's like every popular song of like the last 10 years, and they all use the same four chords. It's the same chord progression, so they just put all these different songs together just to like so you could like actually hear what it like sounds like, basically. But it's that's basically my point, is that like all music is derivative in some way
Right.
basically.
And I mean, you hear this all the time too with like, I mean, even like just to use thrash metal as an example, just to try to get back on track. But like we, you'll hear a song, and then you'll hear a song on the radio, or you'll hear a song like on YouTube or whatever it is, or like on Spotify, and you'll hear a riff from some like new thrash band, and you'll say, "Oh man, that like, well, that's a Slayer riff, or that sounds like a Metallica riff, or whatever," or like that, or like, "Oh, this is a DRI song," or whatever it is that you say. Or you hear the like something like 90% of another band's riff, and you're just like, oh, well, they stole that. And it's like, there's a million YouTube clips all the time of like, so and so stole so and so's music. And it's like
Yeah.
very close, but it's also like, this combo was going to get hit anyway by
Yeah.
one person or another, like like a second time. There was no way that this combination wasn't. It was only going to get touched one time in the history of of thrash metal. That
Yeah.
it was only going to be that. That's all that it was going to be. It's just that, like, it may have been identified before the big song that everyone knows, or it could have been identified again after the fact. But this comet, like, it isn't like it's only considered that artist's riff because they're the one that got the most recognition off of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's theirs or that they were the first to find that combination.
Right.
It's just, this is just an inevitable thing of writing music. You're going to get whatever it is that you write, that combination of notes is going to be repeated eventually.
And
Whether it's not like, it may not be the same speed or the same phrasing, but the same combination of notes is going to be hit in the same succession eventually.
Well, and you know what, we did a project in one of my recording classes when I was in college. And basically, like, for like, it was a 2-part project. For the first part, we had to pick a song we wanted to cover and, record a cover of it, right? And, do everything, drums, whatever you were doing. Some obviously not everyone did like a rock song, but like, I did Trapped Under Ice by Metallica. So I did the drums and the guitar. I had our friend Joe play the solo. And so like, that was it. And then the second part is we had to take that song, and this is like a thing that actually happens a lot, is that if a song is a real hit, like a bunch of different artists will try to like basically kind of rewrite the song and make all their own hit out of it. So the professor was like, basically what you want to do is you want to take the song that you just recorded, that cover, change it a little bit around, change the lyrics, change the riffs, change how it's arranged a little bit, and then write a whole new song based off of it. And it's like, basically that happens all the time in the music industry. That's like literally,
Oh yeah.
like, that's what happens. It's like, oh, that song is a real hit. So what can we do to make a song that sounds similar enough that like it's gonna like also kind of have that same like hit factor, but not like the same exact thing. So we're gonna get sued.
Well, yeah. This whole thing spawned from ABBA.
Yeah.
where like and like well, which basically just spawned modern pop music as we know it.
Yeah.
Like ABBA was, they got their stuff recorded in this little studio in Sweden, which is probably like the most famous recording studio in the world now, that has pretty much been used by every multi-platinum artist that you could think of
Yeah.
to specifically get their songs done, because there's the ABBA formula, which is the chord progression you hear in every major pop song, which is basically canon in D major,
Yeah.
just rearranged a very specific way or phrased a certain way. But it's pretty much all canon in D major.
Yeah.
And it's because scientifically it's the most attractive chord progression or
Well, yeah.
arrangement
And
that the human ear has. For some, I don't even understand why it's
that's
the most pleasing. It just is.
that's
This,
the 4-chord song. That's the whole
yeah,
concept of the 4-chord song by the Axis of Awesome is it's that. It's like literally like these are like it's and the progression is 1 4 5 6. That's the progression. The
yeah,
1 4 5 6 progression is like the basis of all pop music of the last like again last 50 or 60 years.
yeah. Because whatever they did with ABBA, like they did this arrangement just because ABBA explodes, and then this little studio that nobody ever heard of, now all of a sudden people are like knocking on their doors trying to break them down just to get their hit, and
Mhm.
they were like, what do you want us to do? I don't know, just do whatever you did with ABBA. And like then that keeps happening, and you get every single big pop song that's ever existed pretty
Yeah.
much like
Yeah.
since then. And it's just so funny how like it's just all part of the same DNA, baby. It's weird.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
But
speaking of brothers from other mothers,
yeah.
Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey don't got shit on this.
Yeah.
They got nothing on ABBA. That should be
No.
a T-shirt. I've got nothing on ABBA.
Literally.
ABBA don't got like, or if you really want to be a badass, a shirt that just says ABBA don't got shit on me.
Yeah.
Oh man, I should be a T-shirt salesman. I'm in the wrong business. What am I doing here? Good night, everybody. Go fuck yourselves. Wouldn't that be great if that's how we ended the show?
Yeah.
All right, but getting back to Probot. So, like the Tony Iommi album that Dave Grohl is talking about is Tony Iommi's 2001. It's his first solo album. It's just simply called Iommi,
Hmm.
and it's very similar to that too, where he just kind of pulled a bunch of guest musicians on this, and he like wrote all the and he wrote a majority of these songs, and well, he did the lion's share of the songwriting. There's been a few other people here and there, and like his guests and everything, but it was mostly it was like pretty much all Tony Iommi and the producer Bob Marlette who went and wrote this album. And oddly enough, this was 2000, which like kind of this came out in 2000, which recorded between 96 and 2000, and Dave Grohl performed on the song "Goodbye Lament,"
Hmm.
which they only pretty much just gave the singer the additional songwriting credit on this, but it was mostly Tony Iommi and Bob Marlette writing this, and they just put it all together. And Dave Grohl was kind of like, "Oh, okay, so this could work."
Yeah.
So more or less, it got the Santana branding to make it sound sexy,
Yeah.
but it was really more or less Iommi rooted, and
Yeah.
it was more Iommi inspired than Santana. But
Yeah.
but the album is just great because of how fun it is, and he was shipping, and like it's the whole thing works because it's not only the artists, it's not only the all of the special guests, it's not even like this, it's not just the songs themselves, and as well as being on like a smaller label that like was perfect for this, and getting the artwork from someone part of it as well, and this whole like big collaborative effort. It's the whole package
Mhm.
and just the purity of Probot, and it's something that you really don't ever see, and it's possibly the last of its kind, really. That like, I mean, the only thing that I can think of that was close to this was Roadrunner United, where it was like celebrating the end, like the, I think it was the 25th anniversary of Roadrunner Records, but like this is from the big record label saying "Yay us,"
Yeah.
um, but like so that's like I guess the big corporate version of Probot would be the Roadrunner United, but like the whole package worked, and he intentionally put it out on Southern Lord because he like he did have like Foo Fighters had a deal with RCA labels, and he did ship it out to Roadrunner too because he figured, okay, well Roadrunner would at least know what to do with it. RCA, they've never really dealt with like they don't have like small underground metal beginnings, so they might not really like they might do it I'm just because I'm telling them to do it, or maybe they'd like put it out on like a Foo Fighters contract under something if it didn't sell well or
Mhm.
whatever it was. So like they might just do the major label thing and like not really understand what this is, so they wouldn't really know how to market it, but we just have the money behind it, which I guess is nice. But and maybe it'll sell better, but they'll try to do too much with this, so like, and they won't really get the whole concept. So this might not work. He shipped it out to Roadrunner, and Roadrunner was like somewhat interested because he was like, all right, well, Roadrunner at least has these like underground metal roots with like death metal and stuff.
Right.
So maybe they would have like, so like they might be a better fit for this, but also it's a big machine and they might want me to do more than I need to do. And then he just went to Southern Lord. Well, he went to Southern Lord because his like bandmate Greg Anderson just said, and his friend Pete Stahl, they like, well, yeah, Pete Stahl, who Dave Grohl used to play with in this band called Scream, and Pete was in Goatsnake,
Yeah.
and he was like, and like Goatsnake, for those who don't know, like Goatsnake is pretty much the founding. Goatsnake is Southern Lord. Greg Anderson is the Goatsnake guy basically, and also the Southern Lord guy. So found a great way to marry his like business and his like band stuff into like his life, which is
Mhm.
great
Yeah.
if you could do it. But he was like, "Oh yeah, no, my buddy Greg has a record label. They do like underground doom metal and stuff like that. This Southern Lord, so like you should just do that." And it was only around for like a few years at the time. It was founded in '98, so they were on. So like, let's just say that he like talked to him about it in 2000 when like he first had the idea, Dave Grohl, and like the label is only like 2 years old. So like the guy's just like trying to help his buddy Pete, and he's just like, hey, my buddy like Greg's got a record label that he's like, he's like trying to like really like do something with it. They've been around a little while, but like, this might be good for everybody. Like it gets that name out there. Like, he'd do whatever you wouldn't have the corporate machine doing all of these like things that you don't want it to do. Like he'll just kind of like let you have your piece with it, and like he'd be happy to just put it out just to
Yeah.
have something. So it kind of seemed like just the right thing to do with everybody. And it also like really put the bow on this. It really tied the room together. This was the rug that Southern Lord was the rug that tied Probot's room together.
Yeah.
Um, and it like ended up working. It made it what it is. Now it probably would have sold way better. Like it sold well, but it probably would have sold way better under a bigger label. But this was the perfect
It
vessel
had
for
I think it
Probot.
had to be on a
It ha-
small label, on a small
yes,
underground label because of, like, the nature of it,
yes,
you know?
exactly.
If it
That's
was
what I was
on like a
getting
big
at.
if it was on a big label, the fucking producers would have came in and probably ruined it and been like, "Oh no, it's got to have better production value. No, we can't put this song and this song's going to be the single, so we have to rework it so it sounds better and we have to get some more, bigger artists to sing on." It's like, no, you would have ruined it. Like it had to be on a small label.
Yeah, and I mean, they might not even have wanted him to use the musicians that he used. They
Right.
might have even just said, "Oh, like, well, oh, you're not going to get Lemmy on this album. Like, you like don't put Lemmy on this track. Put Lemmy on that track." And he'd be like, "No, I wrote that track specifically for Lemmy with Lemmy."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, well, it's not good. So we're not going to do you're going to put Kronos on this. This isn't a Kronos song. All right, well, you're going to make it a Kronos song." And it's like, yeah, absolutely. I could see them like ruining this thing completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like on Southern Lord, it was like a single CD and like a double LP. They did it on black and red vinyl, and they like did a limited edition on a 7-inch of the of Centuries of Sin and the Emerald Law. Centuries of Sin is the Kronos album song, and that had like a 6,666 copy release. You could get that one on black, green, red, and black swirl, and they sold everything out pretty much, like
Right.
which is great, and it should, and it did, and I'm glad.
It's
And
great.
and the critics received this very well too. Like this had like pretty much flying colors across the board.
Because
You didn't.
it is a great album. It's not like a lot of supergroup albums like they tend to get like lost in like the fact that it's a supergroup and like it's not really that great. Like they don't. It's like they don't. A lot of times they don't mesh well together. But I think the fact that Dave Grohl basically wrote every one of these songs and then like just had guests come in and then kind of like he worked some of the songs to be specific to people like Lemmy. It just worked that way. Like it wasn't like a meeting of all these big egos coming together and everyone wants to like put their part in and then it ends up being shitty.
Right. He just kind of like just told them like he just had all these ideas without any vocals, and it was kind of like the vocals were an afterthought, and then when he started thinking about they were initially an afterthought, and then when he started actually thinking about the vocals, he was like, "Oh, I have the opportunity to do something awesome, so why don't I try?" And that's the moral of the story is if you have a good idea, just try. Whatever that idea may be, just try it. It might actually work.
Yeah.
Anyway, and if it doesn't work, you'll at least be happy you tried because no one can take that away from you, and you have a whole great learning experience.
Yeah.
Unless you maxed out every single credit card you and your family and friends own, and now you're owe money to the IRS and you're pretty screwed. Yes, it does sound like a specific example. No, it isn't. Not from me, anyway. This is not a first-hand account. I don't owe the IRS a bunch of money, is what I'm saying. Now they're going to be looking.
Now they're coming after you.
Now
Yeah,
they're on it.
audits are flying.
Oh yeah, audits everywhere. The missus will not be happy.
No.
Pay your taxes, boys and girls. I do, and so does Rob. But there's some of you that don't. And for that, well, we don't have a sponsor, so
Well,
you can find out. Just figure out whatever it is that you need to do with your tax situation.
Well, listen, like you pay your taxes, but if you don't pay your taxes, then they'll put you in jail where you get to live on the government's money, which comes from taxes. So if you don't pay your taxes and you get arrested, then people's taxes will go to keeping you alive.
That doesn't make sense.
It's true, though.
I never thought about it that way. What a screwed up situation.
Yeah.
Wow, it's almost like the system is designed this way. Huh.
Change the system.
It seems like it might be too late.
Anyway,
I digress. So the thing that makes this album, I mean, of all among all the other things, is just that like I really appreciate that every genre that it traverses various genres of like it has the core
Yes.
of being metal. It has
Yeah.
the root of being metal, but then it expands into all these other genres, so it keeps you guessing. The first time around that you're listening to it, if you don't really know what it is, and if you just like see it, oh, okay, I heard about this thing Probot, let me listen to it without any other like knowledge or context, you're just like, oh, well,
Yeah.
okay. Oh my God, it's a Doom song. Okay, and then hey, is that Lemmy? This sounds like this is pretty cool. This sounds like a Lost Motorhead song. Oh, whoa, what's going on? This is out there. Hey, it's the Voivod guy. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And it's like it keeps you guessing every time. And if you've listened to the album a few times and then you play it on shuffle, oh man, is that
Yeah.
fun?
Yeah.
Like this,
It's like a
you
box
could.
of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
And then sometimes you get the box of chocolates and someone tells you, hey, look over there. And as you're looking over there, they rearrange every single chocolate in the box so that you don't know what the flavor actually is. And then you just like, you take a bite and you're like, oh, coconut. And then you look down at the spot where you like, and then you look at the card sheet and you're like, that wasn't supposed to be coconut. That was supposed to be mint. And then you grab the one that's supposed to be mint and you're like, oh my God, it's caramel.
Yeah.
And
It's a really good like
except you're not mad. You don't want to strangle the person who like who rearranged the chocolates. You're just like, wow, like you're an equal. You just love chocolate, so any chocolate will do at any point in time in any order. Now, if you're one of the people who really needs something in a specific way and it better be what it says it is, then oh boy, you're gonna be mad.
it's a really good uh like I don't know what the word I want to use is, but it's like a good sampling, I guess, of like all different metal genres. And like if like the aliens came down tomorrow and they're like, hey, we want like give us like a good sample of all your metal music. Like you could give them like the Probot album, and like they'd be like, yeah, this is pretty much it. Like if you want to like listen to like all the good metal like genres, here, take this album, and like every song is a different genre basically.
I
And
mean,
and,
if
and I think the aliens
you
would be satisfied.
I think so. I think what you're looking for is you could pretty much use this as a as like
Like a case study in metal almost.
yeah, you could use it as that, but like it could be like an introduction to metal or a gateway
Yes.
to metal album. So like
Yeah.
if someone's like if someone's like, "Hey, I think I'd like to start listening to music today. I've heard about metal. What is it?" And you're like you could just give this to them and say, "Okay, here you go." Like similar to the Alien thing, like it's a gateway album. You could just say,
Yeah.
"Hi, there's a bunch of different versions of metal. Here it is. Like
Especially
this has a few of them. So like let me know which ones you like and then I'll get you some like let me know about like listen to this, tell me your favorite songs and then I'll like just get you other bands that sound like that."
especially if it's like someone who like listens to rock music but like really doesn't listen to heavy metal, and you tell them like, oh yeah, like actually every song on this album was written by Dave Grohl, and they'll be like, oh, like because everybody knows who Dave Grohl is, and they'll be like, oh, so that's interesting. It's like a really good bridge from like mainstream rock into like underground heavy metal.
Yeah, and you could also just let them know, "Oh yeah, well also you should listen to like the people that he like that also were on
Yes.
the songs with him cuz like their
Listen to
bands are
their
good too."
Yeah.
So like if you like that, then you'll like their band because it sounds like the stuff that they would do. And then it's like I think the word really is this is a gateway album.
Yeah. I would like to see a sequel Probot album. Especially considering all the other singers that they wanted to have on that they couldn't for various reasons, whether it was just scheduling conflicts or whatever. But they also wanted to get Tom Araya from Slayer, or
Mhm.
Tom Araya. What am I saying? Tom Araya from Slayer. Uh, the lead singer of Possessed, Chuck Billy from Testament, Phil Anselmo, Millie Petroza from Creator,
That would have been cool.
Schmear from Destruction, the lead singer of Hyrax, the lead singer of
Oh,
Candlemass.
that would have been great to see to see Caton on this.
Yeah.
He
So
would have
it
it would
would
have
be
been really
great to get
cool.
a sequel album and actually get those other people that they weren't able to get for the first one.
Yeah, I mean they were. So I found out about this because like MTV had been promoting it because like this was when Headbangers Ball was still a thing and
Oh yeah,
people
that was great.
like and I don't know like 10 o'clock on Saturdays or something like that it came
Yeah,
on. So like so I was like watching this and it may have come on Metal Mania too on like VH1 Classic on Saturday mornings where it just showed 80s music videos on loop and
right.
that was it.
Yeah,
It's great shows. And like it came up on probably MTV too, and they were promoting the Probot thing, and there were like little snippets of an interview that I can't really find that I can't find anymore. But they did like a live performance too of some of this stuff, and it was and I was just like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. So I may have caught the live performance
yeah,
that they did, which it only has like a handful of people on there um, that actually were on the album. Like it had like Dave Grohl played drums and like
right.
they got Eric Wagner from Trouble. Well, like he's since passed away to
Hmm.
do the song "My Tortured Soul," which he sings on this. Um, and Wino on guitar, and they also had Greg Anderson on rhythm guitar there too. Um, and they also had the Foo Fighters producer Nick. I can't pronounce his name. He's definitely Polish. I'm terrible with Polish names. Uh, Raskulinix. Yeah, that's my best job. I'm sorry. It's definitely wrong. And you could find it on like you could find that whole performance on YouTube. Um, that I remember seeing, and they played the music video for "Shake Your Blood," which is the single with Lemmy, where it's just them playing at like I guess a lesbian BDSM club. I really don't know how else to explain it.
I think they ended up getting like a bunch of models from Suicide Girls, which was like just starting out at the time to
Oh,
be
that
on.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's just that essentially,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a pretty standard metal video.
Hmm.
What else could you do? And that's and like I just remember seeing that and just those two items and hearing about it and seeing the cover and just thinking, oh, that'd be really cool. And then for whatever reason, I never got around to listening to it until like years later. I think I don't even know if I saw. I think I may have seen it at an FYE once or twice, but the album itself was pretty hard to come by. I mean, now I know why, just being on Southern Lord. But it was one of those albums that I always wanted to listen to, and I'm glad that I finally got around to it, like when I did. But I wish that I had owned it at the time, and I had really been like, because I would have been really all over it. I just don't know. I couldn't really find it, and I also kind of forgot about it. And I think because it was 2004, so just I'm sure there were. Yeah, I was starting high school. There had to be a ton of stuff. Like what came out in 2004?
Um.
Like there metal albums
uh,
2004.
well, I mean,
A lot.
Saint
Oh
Anger.
yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Well,
listen
that
to
came out in 2003, I think.
no. Listen to the 2004 metal album lineup and and like then you'll understand why
Yeah.
this like why Probot got like lost in the shuffle. Leviathan by Mastodon, Tempo of the Dam by Exodus, Iced Earth's The Glorious Burden,
Oh
Behemoth's
yeah.
Demigod, Lamb of God's Ashes of the Wake, Shadows Fall, The War Within, which was when like the Shadows Fall had like just started breaking through, and Lamb of God really started breaking through, and
Mhm.
Mastodon really started breaking through. Exodus, the comeback album with like basically with Steve Souza that would have been Paul Bailoff had he not passed away. The System Has Failed by
Oh, yeah,
Megadeth.
Megadeth. Yeah.
3 Inches of Blood's Advance and Vanquish. Neuroses, The Eye of Every Storm.
Amon Amarth, Fate of the
Yeah,
Norns.
Motorhead's Inferno. Need I Go On? There's
Yeah.
like it just for the Slipknot people, Volume 3 came out that year. Winter
Ramstein,
sucked
Rise of
for those
Ryza.
people. Even freaking Dokken came out with something.
That was actually
And,
a surprisingly good year for metal.
oh
2004.
yeah. Yeah, the Killswitch Engage's End of Heartache, because Killswitch Engage was just like becoming a big deal.
Yeah.
War Party by Gwar, when Gwar was like, when people really were like starting to like actually care about Gwar again. The Damage Plan album, Newfound Power, which unfortunately that was not a great ending to that. Um, just yeah, all of these things that came out this year, they're like you couldn't like. It's no wonder that Probot kind of also In Flames soundtrack to your Escape. How could that like not get there? And
Yeah.
Necrophagous Epitaph, which that's I think that was the last album that they ever did for the longest time. But there were so many albums that, yeah, the second and final studio album by Necrophagist, and there's just, it's, oh yes, Orange Goblin as well. And anyway, there's just so many. Thieving from the
Yeah.
House of God. There's just, it's no wonder that Probot got lost in the shuffle that year.
Yeah.
There were just so many good albums, and there's a ton more that we definitely missed. But it,
Yeah.
it also was just hard to come by it in stores. And I mean, this was right around the time we said earlier, like when the internet as we know it was starting to take hold. So, you actually had an FYE to go to, and it was a decent sized. You could actually buy a bunch of albums anywhere, really. You could buy
Well,
physical CDs of
I'm pretty
things.
sure in 2004 Tower Records still existed too.
Yeah, it
Um,
did. It did.
so that
The
was like the place.
Yeah, the Virgin Megastore was like right there in Times Square, and now
Yeah.
it's just such a shame that these things
Yeah.
don't exist. Well, you had two Virgin Megastores. You had the one on Fort. You had the one in Union Square, and then you had the one in Times Square. So they
Sam
had
Goody.
yeah, Sam Goody. They had all the squares covered.
Yeah. There was a lot of record stores. Those were the
Yeah,
the good old days.
yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
And
I
just
remember going to Tower Records at Paramus
oh,
and
I thought you were
buying
gonna
my
do the whole thing in the George Lucas
no.
voice.
I remember going to Tower Records in Paramus, and that's where I discovered Jake Lloyd for the role of Anakin Skywalker.
He was listening to Saint Anger, and they said and he said, I think this album's really great, and I said, no, you actually want to listen to Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, and he said, I don't really know if I like those, and I just decided, he was pretty clueless, so he'd be perfect,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
But yeah, I
that's
remember
what
I
I did.
bought my first like albums that I actually bought myself there when I was like I don't know if I was 13 or 14, but it was like Black Sabbath Past Lives, which was like a live album from the Ozzy era, and the Essential Ozzy Osbourne. Those were the two albums I bought. The two first albums I bought. But that was like, I wish I had known about Probot back then because I would have friggin' bought that album too.
Oh yeah, I remember June 2006, because it was 666. Slayer released one of their albums intentionally that year, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, so they made a thing out of it for like marketing, and I remember I cut school that day specifically to with my friend Adam. I specifically we cut school that day just to go to the Virgin Megastore and buy the Slayer album.
Yeah.
Like just to do it. And I don't know, we got hot dogs, and like we got dirty water dogs because we were in high school, and what else could you afford? And
Yeah.
we like we made the hot dog vendor like do like three, like we made him put ketchup on to do the three, to do like we made him write 666 and ketchup on the hot dogs to commemorate the day. It was so
Nice.
it was so stupid, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it for being a dumb kid. And then we of course went back and listened to the album, and it was quite glorious. It was a fun day.
Yeah.
It was a fun day. I should try to get in touch with that guy. I hope he's doing well. Adam, if you're out there and you haven't lost your mind by now, just from simply knowing me, well, good job.
Hello. Is there anybody out there? Anyway, Probot is a great album, and everyone should go listen to it on your streaming platform of choice, or buy the album if
Yeah,
you're one of those old school people.
yeah.
But
Do whatever you can. If you can come
great.
across, if you can come across a vinyl of that, can
Oh, that would be.
knock yourself out.
It might not have been printed in vinyl because really the vinyl popularity thing didn't start until later on, so it might not have even have gotten a vinyl print.
No, it exists. It
Oh, it
exists.
does. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. It was Southern Lord. They like did the old school thing for like they made sure to do the old school thing with just about everything. And we said
Yeah.
that before. They did it on like multiple colors. They also did the single too. But yeah, you could. They did a reprint. They did a repress in 2018, actually. So they'll probably do one next year to commemorate it. I would be really surprised. Actually, Foo Fighters store sells Probot.
Yeah.
So like you can actually just buy it now. You can buy the 2018 Black Repress for about $25 if you want. So yeah, go out, buy this thing.
All right.
Oh, hey, if you spend $50, you get a free koozie.
Oh,
For
nice.
I don't know how long you'll get that I don't know what the limit is on that thing, but for now, you can get a koozie with Probot. So you could
Right.
buy two Probots and then you could get a koozie because you want the koozie. It keeps your beer cold.
Keeps your beer coozed.
Yeah, I don't know if koozie is a good verb. I don't think it works in that medium. I don't know. But yeah, you could get a hold of Probot. It's readily available for you and your loved ones. The end.
The end.
This has been Why Does This Exist? I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.